Hello everybody, welcome to the Fusing Shop. In today's video we're going to go over how to make a flower implosion marble. Okay, this is pretty easy to make. The tools we're going to need is I'm using a 20mm rod, a white stringer that I pulled, and a piece of blue and white cane. Okay. So the first step is to make your gather like we do with every other marble. And actually first I'm going to clean this glass off. You always want to make sure before you start your project you clean off glass from any dust or dirt, because that will make air bubbles in your final project, and that is what we want to avoid. Okay, so number one is I'm going to go ahead and make a gather. And I'm just going to start gradually heating up the end. And this is pretty much the basic gather that we always start a marble with, because this is going to be a flower implosion marble. So go ahead, heat up the end of your rod and make your gather. Gradually heat up the rod, because actually it's 32 degrees out here outside today. So this glass is very cold, and I will gradually heat it up to prevent it from shocking and cracking. All right. We can increase our oxygen now. Give a little bit more in the flame, put a little bit more of the glass in the flame, and you can see it's already starting to round out. What we're going to do is, once the gather starts to form, is press it and make a Maria on the end. So we're going to press it on our marver pad and make it flat. And this depends on how big you want to make your marble. If you want to make it bigger, then make a bigger gather. And if you want it to be smaller, then you don't need to gather as much. That looks about a good size for me. And again, you want to keep your work on center, because when you go to flatness, you want it to flatten as close to center as possible to make your life much easier. This way your design and your artwork will all be on center. I'm going to head and take it off. And go head over to my marver pad and just drop it down. And it did form a little bit off, but it'll be okay. We'll get it back on in a minute. And just let it fall back where it's on center. Okay. Now what we're going to do is draw on the glass the lines that we need. First I'm going to start with making dots in the middle here. Boom, 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 boom. And then make the petals on the outside. Okay, I brought the camera in a little bit closer in hopes that you will be able to see this in better detail. Actually, I should probably switch it to the other side of me, because I usually do the drawing with my right hand. Hold on. Be right back. And we're back. Welcome to the other side of the video. Okay, so I'm going to lower the flame. Keep this hot so it doesn't get cooled off. And you don't need a giant flame, because this stringer is very thin. So we're just going to go ahead and make a couple dots right in the middle of this. And you can make as many or as little dots as you like. This is your art. So you make it the way that makes you happy and the way that speaks to you. Okay. And you don't need a lot of glass. You just need very little glass to make this happen. Check it out. There we go. You don't need a lot here. You just need a little bit of glass on there. And that's going to kind of like make those little stringy things that grow in the middle of the flower. And we're going to go ahead and melt that, start melting that in. And start letting that implode. And that's going to make these higher than the petals, which I like that way that looks. I like when the little stringy things on the flower are higher than the petals. If you know what those things are actually called, leave me a comment below, because I always love learning things and finding out how the world works. Alright, and those are beginning to flatten out nicely. Give it a little bit of help with the marver. Okay, beautiful. So those have melted in. Now we're going to lower our flame again, and we're going to do a similar thing with the stringer, except we're going to kind of draw little C's around our dots. So here's our dots. Come on, camera, work with me. There's the dots. And you're just going to kind of draw like C's on the outside on how many petals you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. It's up to you how many you want to make. You can make as many or as little as you want. I'm probably going to make about 4 here. And one tiny one to go up top here. Okay, there we go. Use that marver to flatten those out. I'm going to put a little bit of heat in there before I show you what that looks like, so we don't crack and shock the glass. Okay, let me just show you what it looks like so far. You can see kind of like those little C's there around the outside. And now we're just going to go ahead and melt it all in and start imploding this. We could bump our torch up a little bit to help make the process faster. Using that outer fire on this GTT is amazing and really helps to really focus that flame in and really get that glass moving. And little by little you're going to start to see this pattern start to take shape on the inside of the glass. Now what you should do is paddle this every once in a while when it begins to get too round to help that shape implode. So just take it off and give it a smush on the marver. to really help move things along. And then go back in your torch and continue to rotate and just let that glass implode in on itself. And I don't know if you could see it in the camera, but the design is starting to go into the middle of the glass and condense. Sometimes people put stems on these by adding another little dot of green, which is cool. It's really up to you and how you want to make your flower look. You could add many more petals than I added. And just keep rotating and imploding. I'm going to take it off here. You can make this happen by going elbows up position, which just means lifting the glass up on an angle like I'm doing right here. And you could help make this process happen faster by doing it this way. Trying to keep my arm out of the way of the camera too. All right, I'm seeing that the glass is starting to move to the middle. Just get your marver pad. And just push that in and help it implode. And just be patient. This does take time to do this process. So don't rush it. Take your time. And just relax. It's very soothing to watch that glass melt and start to move. So just relax, take your time. You can put on some rockin' tunes if that makes you happy. Or put on some Zen meditation. Okay, let's see if we can get a view of the implosion here, but you can see how much that glass is now taking shape. Whoopsie. And it's actually moved to the inside, and it's hard to see here, but you can just trust me that it's like, whoops, moved to the inside of that. And now we're just going to go ahead and pull out this middle here, because it kind of like makes a donut. Because of the implosion, so we're going to pull that out so it doesn't make an air bubble in our final design. And also it'll pull the petals to a nice point. So we're just going to go ahead, heat up that part. And I'm going to find a punty. This one should do. Is my head in the way? Did I just put my head in the way a little bit? Anyway, trying not to get myself in the way on the videos, because I know everyone wants to see what's going on. So just go ahead and heat up that end. Let that glass start to flow. A nice tight flame going. Oh, this I'm going to heat up just a smidge to make it stick. If your glass is not warm, it's not going to stick even if the other glass is hot. So you got to get it a little bit warm, not too warm. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and pull out that center. while rotating the glass to see it's kind of like making like a top shape. I'm just going to pull that out, take off our punty, and now we're just going to round out the gather and shape this into a marble. Alright, so we're going to round off one side and we're going to make the lens on the other to help shape this into a marble. So right now I'm just going to round off one end where I pull that off, and that's going to start rounding out. Just keep rotating in the fire. You're going to see that start to form and take shape. It needs a little bit more heat here. Start moving in this direction. So use gravity and the heat to your advantage here. Just heat up that very end and start to round out your marble. There we go. We're getting there now. The end has closed down. And looks like there's no air bubbles there. Beautiful. And now we're just gonna, and now to round this out, and then we could attach our cold seal punty. These are one of my favorite types of marbles to make because they come out amazing. So amazing, folks. But seriously, they're like really fun. And as I mentioned earlier, just so many possibilities to make with these. Okay, and then we're going to take out where's my marble mold? Here it is. Take out your marble mold, this one right here, and you look for, I'm going to use this size here. And you don't put this directly in the mold when you first take it out of the fire. You let it cool off for a couple seconds and kind of let a film or a skin develop on it, because you'll deform it if you put it in the mold too quickly. And I really should be doing this on the tabletop. It's just easier to shape that way, but this is looking pretty good. This is looking pretty awesome. You can't see those colors because the glass is so hot. But we're going to go ahead and attach the cold seal punty, take this off, form the lens, and get this in the kiln. Next, we're going to flame cut how big of a lens we want. So just go on the other side of your marble. Make a nice tight flame. Make sure to flash that punty every once in a while. And gradually pull, and you'll start to see the glass taper off. There we go, beautiful. Now we're going to go ahead and melt this down and round it off, and we are done. Let that glass fall in on itself, and it'll eventually melt into one nice ball of glass. Just have to watch where you apply the heat. And you only want to heat half the marble to not deform the other end that you already rounded off. I'm going with the elbows down to help that glass fall down and just help it round off quicker. Looking pretty good. When you're almost fully round, you could go down to your marble mold. And I'm sorry I cannot get it in this shot right this second. But this is coming out awesome. You're gonna go back in and fire polish off any tool marks that might have happen when you put it in your mold. And this is looking pretty good. I'm going to try to get you a quick shot of how we're looking. If the camera will work with me. The glass is still super hot, but you can see that flower inside the marble. I'm going to go ahead, crack off the cold seal, and then fire polish the bottom and get this in the kiln. All we have to do is just tap off the cold seal punty. There we go. And now we go ahead and fire polish. It did leave a little bit of residue. Not a problem though. No, we could melt that right into the rest of the marble. Go on both sides to get the heat even. And just fire polish that off. And we'll take a picture of it tomorrow once it's done annealing. Thanks so much for checking out the flower implosion video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.